To amazing Plantz4mationz, and on this wonderful Memorial Day weekend, I am truly blessed and honored to be here by a war veteran and military or former military at this point, I think, because you'll hear why. He's got so much going on. I am joined here by this amazing, I just asked to make sure I was saying his name right, Korin Sutton. He is amazing, and he's going to share with us his inspiring journey from military service to becoming a celebrated vegan athlete and bodybuilder, and how he uses his platform to promote health, fitness, and compassion for animals. This is an interview definitely you don't want to miss. He actually is also the CEO of, I'm going to get it wrong, so I'm going to ask you to say it for me. Is it Body HD Fitness?
Yeah.
Oh, look, I got it right. And where I know him or found him, actually two things. I saw him in a picture with Jeff Palmer, who I took a class with before, and I'm like, oh, wait. And then I found your Instagram and your YouTube. And I mean, his content, what I love about it is it's so informative. Like every time I watch, I learn something. And it's like you're speaking to new vegans, which I love, because there's so much stuff out there that, you know, there's misconceptions, first of all, about that men need meat. And, you know, and I know that my partner Dawn found Gary Yourofsky. I heard you mention that was one of the first things that led you. So there's so many similarities, and I have a lot of, I know, viewers that are wondering, can you build muscle as a vegan? And your content is amazing. All of his links are in the description so that you can go there and, you know, get some health coach training from this guy. I know we all want to get muscles like him. I'm working on it. Oh, maybe not. I don't want to show my flabby arm. But thank you, Korin. I appreciate you. We'll go over all your, you know, links and everything later on. But I just wanted to welcome you and thank you for your service, and thank you for joining me.
Yeah, no problem. No problem.
So what I wanted to do was just delve into just really quick first, because I know everyone in the comments and everyone is trying to, oh, thank you, Harmonic Earth Healers said, can't wait for this live stream. Welcome, everyone. It's here. Can you tell us how this all began for you? Like, so you were in the military. Were you vegan in the military, or that happened as a general progression after?
It happened while I was in the military. So I did 4 years in the United States Marine Corps fully active service. Also deployed to Operation Iraqi Freedom 3 and 4, and then I did another 4 years in the United States Navy Reserves. And when I went vegan, I was in the reserves at the time. So reserves is like when you're in the military part time, pretty much like you have a full time job and a part time job. So reserves is part time. So that's when I actually went like vegan, because I was like spending more time on the, you know, we call it like the civilian world or the outside. I was spending more time on the outside versus being in the military full time versus when I was in the military for the Marine Corps. And then I was going to school at the same time. So like you said, like I saw Gary Yourofsky. He came into my classroom because I was in a public speaking class, learning about persuasive speaking, and he was like the example, you know, like they you know, I think the professor was vegan. I never really asked him, but like I would assume so if for someone like that to invite an activist to be an
Yeah.
example as a persuasive speaker. So and then what ended up happening was after the speech, that's when I decided to start transitioning to a plant-based diet. So for me, like first I went, to make a long story short, I went pescatarian. But then from pescatarian, and when I started learning more about veganism and living on a plant-based diet, especially like when it comes to protein, that's when I fully went vegan. And some of the problems that I had when I was transitioning was really trying to find like protein items, because even though Gary in his speech he left tons of examples, a lot of those examples were very expensive foods, and I was in college. I was like, there's no way I could purchase these things. Because I remember going to Whole Foods and, I looked for tofurkey, like deli meat. And that thing was like $8 back then. So, and this was like years ago. So obviously there wasn't a lot of options anyway. But whatever options there were, it was expensive. And I didn't even know about tofu. I didn't know about tofu or the different textures and stuff like that. So I wasn't really that well versed. I didn't even find it. But I did what most people would do when they're transitioning. They just eliminate their animal intake when it comes to meat, and then start heavily increasing intake in like vegetables, rice, and beans. So pretty much for me, I was whole foods plant based. Like I pretty much started off that with the pescatarian diet, and I was just using like the seafood to get majority of my protein. But as time went on, and I started like doing my own research, because I started Googling, and I kind of ran through the Google search and everything. Robert Sheik came up, and he had a book called Bodybuilding and Fitness. Yes, this one right here is actually the first vegan book I ever read. Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Fitness, yeah, by Robert Sheik. It was literally the first book I ever read when I went vegan. And you can tell, like, look how old, like, see how wrinkled it is. So it was, I was carrying it. It was like all in my backpack and everything. So like anytime I had free time, I would like sit there and read the literature and highlighting things and stuff like that. And then and then eventually, I started learning about tofu and learning about like different vegan options, especially for protein. And then what ended up happening, and then in the back, when we started going through the back of the book, it talked about like different references and people you can connect with. And that's when I started following. He used to have a big group called Vegan. I think it still exists. Yeah, it still exists actually, but it's different. It's not the original one. He created a new one now, but it was Vegan Bodybuilding and Fitness group on Facebook.
Okay.
And that's when I joined that. And then I started like, asking people, sharing my journey. And during that time, that's when I actually decided to start bodybuilding. And that's when I really started showing my journey as I was like competing and getting ready to do bodybuilding shows and stuff like that. And I think once I started doing bodybuilding, I had a better idea how to get protein, how much protein I should be consuming, because a lot of things changed when I transitioned to a vegan lifestyle. When I went pescatarian and I started like going more in depth into nutrition, that's when I decided to change my major. So I was a criminal justice major. I went into exercise science. So I switched my major to that, and then I started loading up onto tons of nutrition courses. And then I started again. Then I got certified as a nutritionist, and then I got a degree as an exercise science and physiology major. And from there, that's when I started going like more deeper into fitness. Because I figured, I mean, I always loved fitness, but when I was a personal trainer, because in the reserves, part of my job was also personal training. I had a side job, and I just did it for fun. And because I was like liking what I was doing, and then I started realizing that nutrition played a significant role when it came to results, and like everything kind of connected together. Because even when I was training people, I wasn't really teaching nutrition at all. Like I was just like a basic trainer, and I was in shape and everything. And people would ask me like, "Oh, what do you do? What do you eat?" Like I'm trying to get ripped and stuff, and whatever. And I'll just be like, yeah, just lean chicken breasts, like broccoli, rice. You just have to eat clean, eat healthy. I didn't know anything about macros and calories and deficits and stuff like that. I just knew basic stuff. But as I became a nutritionist and then even got into bodybuilding, that's when I started learning more about counting macros, especially bodybuilding, because they're like religious about counting macros and tracking your foods. So once I got into that, that's when I was like, man, like, yo, the nutrition is like 80%, because even for me, even though I thought I was already in shape, when I got into bodybuilding, I got into ridiculous shape. And that's all from like tracking calories and macros and, doing things like that. And I just started taking what I've learned and what I've actually done in real retrospect, and started teaching others. And make a long story short, that I was like working for different gyms and stuff like that. And I kind of like left the gym space and wanted to start training people on my own, because what I realized is that when it came to gyms, like it was all the same. Like it didn't matter where I worked at, from Gold's Gym, UFit, even Equinox, like they weren't really pushing nutrition. They weren't pushing. They were pushing more on the exercise. Even when I worked at Equinox, like at the time, it was just like they wanted to. I mean, they did more when it came to selling the personal training, but it was, I mean, for me, it was just like it was a dog and pony show. It was like, man, like you're just trying to impress these clients of how smart you are when it comes to the physical fitness, but half of these people don't. It's not the physical fitness, like it's the nutrition they need to fix. Because no one was getting changes. Like nobody's getting changes. And I'm like, so what's the point trying to impress someone how smart you are with physical fitness, if you're not changing their diet? That's the main correlation when it comes to health related diseases, is the diet. You know what I'm saying? Like you could do anything with fitness. You know what I mean? And that's where I kind of like.
And that's where people get puzzled, Korin. I think they get puzzled. Like he was so healthy and he worked out, and like how did this happen? It's like that is really just a piece of the story. And I commend you for figuring that out. And like then it was a conflict of interest. It sounds like to be promoting that.
Yeah, because even when I worked at Equinox and stuff like that, like the problem was that, I mean, by that time I was already vegan. And I was doing bodybuilding. I was like vegan for a few years already, and I was doing the whole bodybuilding thing, and so I was like pushing the nutrition, because I was just like, you're not going to get results. Like I was the only trainer that was really pushing that. I mean, when it came to the other trainers that was out there, they weren't really pushing nutrition, more like nutritional guidance, but that's not the same. Nutritional guidance is just giving advice, but you're not like being hard on them and rigorous with the nutrition. And for me, I was pushing nutrition, because like, anyway, I mean, even when during the assessments and stuff, I mean, I would tell them like anybody could train you, like, like you're trying to just get trained, or do you want results? And I was like limiting my capabilities of what I could do, just because I was working in the gym, and I couldn't really expand my services to the people I really needed to help, especially in that time frame, because a lot of people weren't really trying to go vegan.
Right.
So even when I was like writing these meal plans and stuff like that for people, it was hard to keep track of them. Half of the clients weren't even following it. There was some that, they didn't want to do the vegan thing and stuff like that. Even if I like tried catering it and tried to, make it more customized for that individual, but it was just the wrong clientele, for me. So that's why I decided, hey, I should go on my own and just do my own thing. Like really train people that I want to train, that I attract, not train people from what that gym attracts, because that's what I noticed in every gym, and that's what you start realizing stuff. It takes a while to realize certain things, but it took me a while to understand that the people that's coming to this gym, people who's going to UFit, Gold's Gym, Equinox, they're attracted to the gym, not to me. So when it comes to the clientele, it's like a big bag of tricks. I don't know what I'm going to get. Versus if I do my own thing, I'm attracting my own personal demographic. So now, like owning my own business and stuff like that, like when I'm doing assessments and stuff like that and everything, it doesn't mean like it's more people that can actually help. Like people who's just like, I tried all these diets, none of it works. I want to go vegan, or I'm a new vegan. Even some old, regular vegans, like or people who just want to reduce their meat. It's not a lot of people like that. And probably like 2% of the company of there's clients like that, like who's more on a reduction, but more, like 80% vegan, 80% plant-based. But again, I'm attracting my own demographic, which is really helping people out when it comes to this stuff.
That's amazing. And I think that also I was just going to touch on, even if there were people giving nutritional advice, it's sort of like the same advice we probably get from a regular nutritionist that's not plant certified. It's going to be like, eat chicken and instead of meat, maybe, or, and eat a lot of milk, or, just different things like, or increase meat because you're bodybuilding. Like, who knows what they'll tell people. And it's like, I think it's so great. Tessa said she started by going pescatarian. Thank you, Tessa, Michelle, Muriel, Harmonic Earth Healers. Thank you. Did I say health or earth? I always say that wrong. But I think from what Tessa said, a lot of people start going vegetarian, then they go into veganism, or a lot of people start by reducing their meat, or a lot of people just find like, oh, this plant-based food was pretty good. But I think that's important that you do work with people, not like you're not real super like strict in the beginning of saying like you have to get rid of all meat, because that person might figure out, oh wow, I am building more muscle, I'm feeling better. Why am I, he's just giving me all these options for these delicious tofu or maybe these plant-based meat alternatives. And that's one of the things I love how you share on your videos. And I can imagine if people are looking to to build muscle and they're not sure they can do it with a vegan diet because it's so much better for your health, you kind of incorporate both those things. You explain the why it's not healthy for your heart, for example, to eat so much meat, and your brain, and then you also tell them what to eat. Like you have a lot of videos, if you go to his Instagram and YouTube and everything, in the actual store, helping people pick out, showing different things. Of even, you did even shoes the other day that showed us what was vegan, which I had no idea. So those little symbols, I was like, this is so cool, I love his stuff. I usually have people on that I'm like a fan of, so that I can like hopefully pick their brain a little bit more than what I see on the video, and share it with other people. Like you have so many followers that I was like so gratitude and thankful that you would come on to my channel. And I love it because, it's so important what you're doing, because there's such a bunch of myths out there about it, and you're like breaking those myths, saying, oh, we need meat, and and you explain to people. But I was thinking, so it's funny because you actually went into it because you found that Gary has a speech, we'll share in the comments, that he does also. It was like an animal rights thing. You ethically went vegan, and then you also then found nutrition within it. So I think it's important to know that you have that background, so that you actually know the reason people.
Oh yeah, because like that when it came to the ethical part, for me it was I never like, obviously I knew like animals died, but I didn't know like the whole process. Like, and truthfully, I thought, and I kind of made it up in my head, like
we all do. Yeah.
Never really like did any research to find out how does the cow gets slaughtered and brought to the market. So I never looked that up. I kind of just made it in my head that there's a slaughterhouse, maybe some shack or something in the back of the barn where they cut his throat or something like that. And maybe with the cow, they find like the oldest cow, like the cows that live the longest, and kill them. Like, because when I was in the Marine Corps, like I lived in North Carolina, and that was the closest I've seen farms, because where the base I was at was in Camp Lejeune, North Carolina, which is in Jackson, which is like near Jacksonville. And in that area, especially when you drive down, they have interstates. I forgot the name of the number of the interstates that usually would drive down in North Carolina. But when I would drive down these interstates, that's where you find the hog farms, a lot of hog farms, even cows and things like that. And you see them in fields and stuff, and you see the trucks like in the morning, like taking them to the slaughterhouse, but it never registered. Like it never registered. I was just like, oh, they're probably,
Yeah, I know, right? Like it's so weird.
they're taking them to slaughterhouse, or I didn't even think about that. I was just like, oh, look, the pigs, like
Yeah.
that's all that happened. And when you see the cows in the field, you're just like, oh, cows, like you never really think like these cows are going to be slaughtered one day and be in a supermarket. Like never really put that into realization. And when it came to, I need to hit this part, when it came to the ethical part, when I was in that classroom, it was because I was in war. So I deployed to Operation Iraqi Freedom 3 and 4. And so I saw a lot of combat. I saw things happen, a lot of violence and everything. And, I even seen people who got hurt and died and stuff like that. And one thing that really registered with me when Gary was showing all those videos and, was like all the abuse, all the pain that these animals were going through, the torture. And then even when they were dying, like, they were showing like how, like their facial expressions, like some of the animals were crying, like they could tell that they're about to, it's about to be done. Their life about to end right now. And you could tell they were scared. They were, crying. And what I always tell people when I tell the story is like that same look and feeling is the same feeling I saw with comrades and when people were in war. And I was like, and that's what registered with me. And I was like, man, I never in my life looked at like an animal that way. And even pets, I never looked at pets that way. Like a pet was a pet, but it wasn't like anything like, oh, like it's a living being. What the connection wasn't as strong like it is now. You know what I mean? It was just like, yeah, it's a pet, it's a dog, it's a cat. Maybe it had a little bit more respect than a cow, but not like a respect of another human. You know what I mean? So, but that was the thing that really clicked for me. And when I saw that, I was just like, yeah, I want to try this diet out. Like let me try it out. Let me see how it is, because like this is bad. This doesn't feel right. But if I can live this lifestyle, eating plants, then I'll be happy to not participate into this anymore, and that's what I did.
And that had to be a little bit difficult, I would assume, being in the military and like, trying to be like ethically, you wanted to be vegan. And that's such an important analogy. I never thought of that, because victims like that might get caught up in war, like civilians and things. It's sort of like what's happening with animals. Like they didn't ask to be there. And most of the time we're breeding them, putting them in this world just to, just to put them through that. And I never thought of that either. Like I would always, I mean, people even make jokes when they see a pig or something, oh, that would look good, bacon and this and that. And like, not only is it that the poor animal's going through fear, but I never connected the two until I'm only been vegan 5 years. So like, I totally get, we're just not there. Like consciously we think of, oh, it's an animal, this one we eat, this is one we're our pets. And even like you said, the respect level becomes different for all living things, right? Oh, you heard that, huh? Neo made an appearance. He was like, are you talking about animals? Welcome, Carl. And and so is that like, what did you think at first? Were you scared of trying to make sure you had muscle? Is that why, I think part of maybe why you went into like nutrition, and what's the myth behind that? Like, why do people think meat is the only way they can build muscle? Like, they don't believe there's other ways. And can you share a little bit for those
Yeah, yeah. I
bodybuilders
mean,
watching?
I wasn't really scared of losing muscle. I just wanted to continue to build because like I was like, I mean, when I saw Gary, I mean, I wasn't bodybuilding, but like I wanted to get bigger,
Hmm.
just like any other guy who goes to the gym, like just want to get jacked, build some muscle, things like that. And I was like, and I was going off of like bro science too. So it's like, yeah, you need protein. You need protein. Like that's all. That's all you knew when you worked out. It's like you need to eat a lot of protein if you want to build more mass. You build more muscle. So that was my only concern, really. I wasn't like scared, but it was my concern. And I remember like um, even when I started going pescatarian and I started transitioning, I mean, I wasn't counting my macros, I wasn't tracking anything. So I did lose a lot of weight. I went from like, I think my heaviest was like somewhere around 215 to 225 when I was eating meat. And then I went all the way down to like 165. So I
Wow.
definitely lost muscle, but I didn't care because the time I was vegan and I was at like 165, I was like ripped and I had a six pack and everything. So like for me, I was pretty fine with that because like that was something that I always struggled with was how to get a six pack and then maintain it because there like even in the Marine Corps, there was times I have had like a ripped six pack, but it was only because like I was doing extra activities beyond military training and working out. Like I was like going out doing boogie boarding or swimming or things like that, like extra activities that was really ramping up my calorie burn to get ripped. But again, I didn't understand calorie deficits. I was just so in the military, it was just basically I was burning more calories than what I was consuming by default by doing so much like exercise, because I was exercising with the military. I did my own exercise routine. And then when I would do like physical, like, just recreational stuff, maybe if I was playing racquetball or like I said, swimming or boogie boarding and stuff like that, that's when I was really getting lean. So it didn't matter what I would eat. I was just like burn it all just because my activity level was so extremely high. Um, but then with the whole plant based, my activity wasn't as active as when I was younger in the military. So learning about deficits and things like that, that's where I was able to dial it in, especially bodybuilding, because bodybuilding is all about having both best of both worlds, which is like being very conditioned, but at the same time being jacked. So not just like leaning out and being ripped while losing muscle, but how you can maintain your muscle and get ripped, which plays a significant part when it comes to like protein and having a balanced diet. So I learned a lot more throughout once, like I said, once I got my degree and became a nutritionist and really started like dialing things in with the whole bodybuilding stuff.
And if someone's coming into this, like in bodybuilding, and working out a lot, like, what is the key? Like, is there an amount of protein, or would it vary for each person? Like, as far as if people are wondering that, or would it just depend on the way you're, like you said, you're working out, your calories? Is that why they should get a
Yeah, yeah.
customized plan?
It varies for each person because I don't even like saying like the general rule like most people would say is like, oh, 1 gram of protein per body weight or a gram of protein per kilogram of weight. I don't even like saying that because it's a very broad statement, and
Mhm.
I get very technical when I answer it. I'm like, it really depends on like your activity level and what you're trying to achieve. So I always give an example. So what I usually do when I create programs for my student is I use a ratio system, right? So in a ratio system, it's different depending on their activities because a lot of people who's training with me, they're going to be working out. Okay, so that's already nipped in the butt. So a lot of people are going to be more active anyways, right? So I'm not just training a person who's just sedentary. I am training someone who's going to be active or in some type of structured workout regimen. Now, on top of that, it depends on the goals of what they're trying to achieve. So, for example, if someone's like trying to build muscle, and I'm just trying to keep it as basic as possible, maybe 30% of their diet will come from protein, and then the other percentages, like maybe 35-40%, will come from carbs, and then the remaining will go towards fat when it comes to their calories. Then if there's someone who's doing like a high endurance sport, then they don't need that much protein because they're more for sport performance. They're not trying to really get jacked and be big as a bodybuilder. So maybe 25% of their calories might go into protein, while when it comes to carbs, 50 to 55% of their diet is coming from carbohydrates. So this individual will be on a very high carb diet, and then the remaining will go towards fat. Since they're more like high endurance, and they need the energy, and it's more for sports performance. So that's why it really depends. Now, if you will do the 1 gram per body weight, always, if you want to use that thing, I mean, that's a good place to start. But I always say that when it comes down to it, you want to make sure it's lean body mass. This is the mistake that a lot of people do, because I'm like, if you're 300 pounds, with 50% body fat, where half of your body is fat, literally, you don't need 300 grams of protein. It's ridiculous. You probably only need 150. And even then, because the lean body mass for 50% would be 150. So that means that individual has 150 pounds of fat, and the other part is 150 pounds of lean muscle mass. So probably that individual probably only need 150. But even in that case, I still wouldn't give that individual that much protein, just because they're not that active. Like someone 300 pounds with 50% body fat is not even that active. So they're probably doing just a bunch of corrective training and some functional training. So very, very like slow and beginner type, novice type exercises. So maybe I will even bring the protein down more, because right now the primary goal is to lose body fat. Like, who cares about muscle? Half your body is made out of fat, bro. So we care about muscle. We need to get you lean and healthy.
Yeah.
So let's bring down the protein, maybe even down to like 125, and then have put everything else in carbs and fat, and then like keep this individual in a caloric deficit and stay consistent with that, so they can lose that body fat and be healthy. And then maybe once they start losing majority of that body fat, getting down to like 20%, maybe even down to, if it's a male, maybe even down to 15% body fat, that's when we can start increasing the protein and start focusing on higher protein and building muscle goals. Like, let's focus on the aesthetics and boosting up your metabolism and stuff. But 50% body fat, 300 pounds, like, nah, we don't even need 150 grams of protein.
That makes sense. And I think that's what sometimes people do. They generalize it, or like you were mentioning, when they come into gyms, they're getting some bad advice, like, yeah, you just need to bulk up and get all your protein, and they're not healthy, which is, what you're promoting. Because I think people that are losing weight doesn't always mean they're healthy. And that's why a lot of these, like when you were talking about how much carbs you need, a lot of people are on these low carb diets, and they think they feel good at first, but their arteries are being clogged because they're not even getting fruits and veggies. So I love that that you bring that. Can you just explain for those who might not know, like, what are some like meals that you have, or what is protein in a plant-based diet? Like, what would a normal day of looking? And I know it would depend for each person, but like for you, what we're looking at your diet, what would it
be? Yeah. So right now I'm currently doing about, I think like 200, I think I'm doing 215 or 220 grams of protein. And so that would be like a tofu scramble in the morning, or I call it like a broken burger bowl, which is just like a bunch of seitan. It's like 80 grams of protein of seitan, with like vegetables, which would be mostly like onions, bell peppers, garlic, spinach, and mushrooms. And then so it'd either be a tofu scramble with those same ingredients, but with added black pepper and turmeric, or just the broken burger bowl, which would just be the seitan with the vegetables, and that's it. Then for breakfast, it would just be a big protein shake. Right now, currently, I've been using Vita protein, so I would do about 60 grams of protein just from that, and then for dinner, I would do like a tofu stir fry. So it'll just be like tofu with some mixed vegetables and some rice, with some soyaki teriyaki sauce. So that would equal up to like fairly to like 200 to 220 grams of protein.
And so you eat a fair amount of like rice, so carbs, are okay with the tofu as protein. And like fruits, do you recommend people to eat decent amount of fruit, or do you kind of steer them away if they're?
Yeah, they can eat fruit. Yeah, for sure.
Mhm.
Like like, because like I know like that example that I gave doesn't sound like there was fruits, but bell peppers is a fruit. Yeah.
That's true, right?
Well,
We always
it's
forget.
very high in vitamin C. It's not sweet like an orange or an apple, but it's
Mhm.
still considered a fruit, and it's a lot higher than most fruits, anyways. So I would have the bell pepper, but like yeah, I mean, people could have fruits and stuff like that. My It's just like what I do is like when I have like a little routine, I kind of stick with it for a while, and then I kind of switch it
Yeah.
here and there. But like but when I'm working with other people, yeah, I mean, I'm changing their stuff all the time. So yeah, they could have like a high protein fruit bowl, which could be like um, a vegan Greek yogurt from Kite Hill. So that yogurt particularly, it has a lot of protein because they use like pea protein, and I think they use like soy as well to get the protein very high. And then you can add like your fruits or granola to it. So that could be something like that someone could use to get a lot of protein in, and as well like some fruits. Like, but usually the fruits I push a lot is like the berries. I deal with a lot of weight loss, so I
Mhm.
push more of the berries, like blueberries, strawberries, raspberry, like any type of berry you could think of. Maybe plums from time to time, apples, oranges, anything that's like pretty low in carbs but more nutrient dense. So that's why I usually push.
That's amazing. And J&J Video Reacts, Dawn, thank you for joining. And I think Carl pop in too. She said that sounds delicious. I agree. Like, I don't know why I ask people these food questions when I'm starving, because it makes me want to like run and eat. Thank you for telling everyone to like and share. Yeah, this is such important information, because there's so many men out there putting unhealthy things in, and like especially in the bodybuilding and athletic world, that you're a very like a great example. I can't wait to send a lot of your information out there to people in this interviews. Already we've learned a lot, about your journey, and also like just how there's so many misconceptions of how to eat healthy, that it's good that you're teaching that. And if before we get into a couple of questions, can you just tell them, if they like want to find you, where to find you, and like how to join your coaching program? I know
Yeah.
that some of your videos, I always hear you, they have to make a comment of something, right? I love that.
Yeah. So any platform really, on X, YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram. Just type in my name, Korin Sutton. I'm on all those platforms. And then if you are interested with any type of coaching or something like that, you can go to my website at bodyhdfitness.com, and just set up an appointment, and then I can help you. Or you can email me at my name, Korin Sutton, at bodyhdfitness.com.
Also, I can still hear there's people outside the window, because it's a holiday and we're kind of in a resort area. And as soon as you started saying that, like these women outside started screaming, I'm like, we're not really in here doing a live interview. There's no famous person in here. Um, Tessa wanted to know, did you lose any friends when you went vegan? And I guess, yeah, that's a good point to touch on. In the military, how did people react to that?
Oh, military don't care. I mean, you can't lose friends in the military because they're going to work with you. So it's like it's a
Yeah.
job, and so like you can't really technically lose friends in the military just because you went vegan. But like regular friends, no, because the thing is that I'm a little bit different than some vegans. Like some vegans are very hardcore and they're pushing the agenda and they don't want to deal with anyone that eats meat. Which I get it, but then at the same time, it's like you're alienating yourself at the same time.
Hmm.
And by doing that, I feel that because it's like there's a positive and a negative. It's like I understand where they're coming from, but the negative part is that all those friends and family members that you had a relationship, you just severed that relationship, and so they're going to have even more of a negative bias of vegans in general because they look
Hmm.
at you as the example or the epitome of what vegans are, if that
Hmm.
makes sense. So that's why it's not good to like disconnect relationships like that with people. It's good to just have a better understanding and then try to impress them through, like lifestyle. You know what I mean? And that's what I've done is always impress people by lifestyle. And people usually, some people support it. I have friends who reduced their meat. I have friends who actually went vegan eventually. Like I just had a friend hit me up literally 2 days ago, and big meat eater, and he literally messaged me on Instagram like, "Hey, bro, like I just want to let you know I just went vegan." And I was like,
Nice.
"Congrats, man!" So um, and I feel like that works. You know,
Yeah, and I would imagine too. I think I heard you talking about this on the interview with Chef AJ that in the military it was all about kind of as well as performance, and then in regular life it's about the connection. Like they don't want to, they people will move away from you if you're maybe like you said judging them. And we all went vegan by hearing something, like if they had only had vegans at that speech that you heard. It wouldn't have changed you, like you know what I mean. So I think that's awesome the way that let everybody in on it but also don't like focus on it. And you were talking about how performance, like I guess also if you're like, if I tell somebody you can still build muscle and go vegan, it's not going to mean as much as you who was a champion bodybuilder, and have muscle saying that to them, so you have a lot more credibility. So I think it's especially important to help men and women who are trying to, stay athletic and they've got those myths out there, that and I think Muriel had a question earlier I missed. And like what part of like what is building muscle? She was talking about the flab, which I have some, so I'm not going to share it on camera, but like when how do we get rid of that? Like, are there certain, is it just it's nutrition but exercising? Like, well, how do you build a muscle? Like, I think it's such a weird thing that we don't really think about. Like, some people think if you just eat protein you build muscle, but obviously there's some type of working out in it, right?
yeah. I mean, so like we call it the bat wing, right? So to get rid of the bat wing is pretty simple. First, you need to be in a calorie deficit because the bat wing is just fat. It's just fat that's on the arms. So to lose body fat, you have to be in a calorie deficit, and then lose that fat, and then the skin will tighten up. And then for the muscle, if you want to just have more tone, more definition, maybe some hypertrophy, then that's when you want to, do exercises that can help strengthen that up. So it could be any type of body weight exercise. It could be, triceps or tricep pull downs and bodybuilding workouts, functional training, anything that you actually enjoy that can help strengthen your body depending on the physique that you're looking for.
That's great advice. Carl said best body weight exercises to strengthen the stomach muscles. Do you have any advice on that?
Just crunches, leg lifts, things like that. When it comes to the abdominals, any type of abdominal exercises really that can help strengthen that planks. But the only thing is that I'm not like now I know some body weight exercises, but like I don't specialize in body weight training. Like someone who does like parkour or something like that.
And can you just touch on really quick? We have like about 8 or 9 more minutes because I know you have a busy weekend.
Mhm.
Can you touch on, like, if I'm somebody watching this, if I'm a man who wants to get, or already is trying to, get buff and ripped and all that, and or is an athlete, what would be the advantage of the protein, like, that you consume, like the alternatives, rather than just eating meat? Like, is it giving them different set of nutrients in addition to just not hurting animals?
Yeah, I mean, some of the benefits is that, I mean, first I want to say that, usually when it comes to people who consume meat versus like people who are on a plant-based diet, there's studies that there's no significant difference, when it comes to building muscle. In retrospect, there's no significant difference. Like, so someone who's eating meat, someone who's eating plants, they can put on same amount of muscle. So there's no difference. Now, that's one part. Another part is that what I push is that if you're eating like an overconsumption of meat for protein, this can be problematic just because, like, if from overconsumption of red meats, pork, processed meats, lamb, they're high in saturated fat and cholesterol. So over time, right, what can happen is that they could look good from the outside, but from the inside, their blood work is bad. They have high cholesterol, high blood pressure, things like that. And this isn't good because with high levels of high cholesterol, especially your LDL cholesterol, this can lead to like heart disease and other health related diseases as well. So this is why it's not good to overconsume. So someone who wants to consume meat, I usually say that you should still incorporate some plant-based foods into your diet because fiber is a significant it's a wonder. It's literally it's a wonder food where it's going to help with your gut microbiome, help get a lot of prebiotics, probiotics into your gut. Okay, if you have a clean, healthy gut, this is what's going to help eliminate a lot of health-related diseases. So definitely getting a lot of those type of foods are going to be good because if you're eating meat, which has no fiber, the fiber is going to help push that stuff out. Because what happened, how people get colon cancer because they got literally poop in them. They got shit in them. That's why you say, I'm like, you literally got shit in you. Yeah. That's just rotting in your colon.
They're full of,
Yeah,
we've all heard the phrase, right?
yeah, literally. So okay. Yeah, so what I say is that they're about to work on it. But like so I said when it comes down to if they're going to eat meat, I always say like the best thing to do is like 80% plant-based and then 20% animal-based. And even if you could bring down that 20% even more, do you have to consume meat every single day? Nah, man. Like you could have a meatless Monday. Not even in the day. Not everything has to consist with meat. Maybe breakfast you have tofu scramble, and then for lunch you have chicken, and then for dinner you have like seitan, and everything is mixed with a whole foods plant-based diet. So I always say, like, even if you're consuming meat, try to reduce it as much as possible. And that's what's going to keep you healthy because that's how the eastern part of the world lives. That's how Blue Zone lives. They're not just there. A lot of people who's in these blue zones aren't just vegan or vegetarian. It's some of them are, but not all of them. But they do have a reduction of meat. And in America, we have the highest rate when it comes to diabetes, heart disease, colon cancer, and high cholesterol versus other parts of the world. And another thing that we also lead in is meat consumption. Yeah. So if we're number one in meat consumption and we're also leading in when it comes to these diseases, and you think there's no correlation, I mean, that's just silly to think about. So there's only certain diets that I don't think is good, like when it comes like animal based and carnivore diets. I'm against those diets because I'm like, I don't think that's a diet that's there to for people to thrive on, especially when it comes to longevity. And you're not and what you're hearing on the internet is more people talking about how I was able to cure this disease, how I was able to be, my skin's more cleared up, and by going animal based and stuff. But you know what they're not talking about? Longevity. Like, who cares about the quick fixes because the process of elimination? What about how consistent can you stay on this diet for longevity? There's already people who's failing already. There's people who is promoting carnivore diets. I'm not going to say their name. I don't even want to promote them, but like, they were on a carnivore diet. They were pushing it the hell out of it, and then they had issues. So now they dumbed it down to an animal-based diet. And I'm like, bro, it's like, this is just Atkins with different names.
Right. It's terrible. And then when you mention diabetes, we don't realize that the high saturated fat also is a cause of that. And we're like one of the leading, not only heart disease, but like, yeah, there's definitely a big correlation, and that's important. That was a great point you made. Yeah, you can get a lot of protein, but why wouldn't you get it from this source that's not causing the heart disease, cholesterol, diabetes, all the stuff that, is you're getting with that? If you can get the same thing. And I think a lot of it has to do with like comfort zone and not knowing what to eat.
So that's a key word, comfort. Yeah, because the one thing I would say is, like, when you get diagnosed with some of these diseases, what's the first thing they tell you to do? They're not telling you stop eating broccoli and stop eating your apples and carrots. They're not. That's the last thing they're telling you. They're telling you stop eating red meat. They tell you reduce your red meat. So all the stuff that is good, they're telling you to reduce. So I'm like, just kind of think about it. Like, you don't have to be a rocket scientist. But now there's a community of people now who's thinking like even what doctors are saying when they say that they're wrong. And I'm like, all right, you want to believe some Joe Smo online? Go ahead. Versus your own primary care physician. All right, yeah, whatever. It's cool. You'll find out eventually, either the hard way. If it's going to be the hard way, you'll realize it. Yeah.
And the elimination that you talked about was, if you're eating a bunch of processed food, and usually when people go on those other diets, they're taking out a lot of the junk and soda, and they're not thinking about, well, that's why you lost weight. Like, you might have lost weight and you might have lowered your sugar, but you're not eating any. I mean, you're supposed to, be able to eat. Like, that's just like you said, long term, we don't know the effects, and we're already seeing it. So like, there's people who are in their 90s and 100 years old that have been plant-based, and they're, thriving. We don't know any 100-year-old carnivores. Like, we're not meant to eat that way, right? Thanks for sharing.
On a pure carnivore diet? No, you're not saying anyone living that long on a pure carnivore diet. Nope. Yeah.
And if you go to his channel, you'll see a lot of, I love the way you'll share what that other, maybe that other person said or did, or, some of their misconceptions. And you'll actually then tell the real story, which is so helpful to people because they're seeing so much stuff online. I know you've got stuff going on over there with someone working. I appreciate you still joining us. And I guess if we could just at the, to wrap things up a little bit here, I know we have to go, but can you tell us, like, if you had to leave us with a message, like what it would be for maybe new bodybuilders or new vegans, or anything you want to share? And then also if you could just tell your websites and things again.
Yeah. The only thing I could say is really like, if you're having issues going vegan or something like that, definitely find a professional. It doesn't have to be me. It could be anybody. I'm saying there's a lot of vegan nutritionists, dietitians, fitness coaches out there who's willing to help you. And I always say do that because, you're going to save the time and the trouble and the confusion. And if you're working with one person, they're going to go ahead and lay everything out for you and give you the blueprint that you need to follow. So it just makes your experience a lot better. An example I always say is like, would you, when it comes to like let's say your sink is broken, are you going to try to do yourself, or who you think could do it better, yourself or
right?
plumber, like a master plumber who could do it like within seconds, a master plumber versus yourself. You have to do a lot of studying, you have to look at things, and then there might be some pros and cons. You might mess up, you might end up making it worse. It's better just hiring a professional and let them like take care of it, especially if you already have a busy lifestyle on top of that. They can just give you that blueprint. So that's the only thing I would say to leave off with. And again, you can find me on any platform, like any social media platform, like X, Twitter, it's the same thing. Instagram, Facebook, whatever. Just type in my name, Korin Sutton, and then if you want to utilize my services, just find me on my website, bodyhdfitness.com, or email me at korinsutton@bodyhdfitness.com.
Thank you. Everyone's in the comments just saying how useful and appreciated we all are. Thank you for joining Muriel, Dawn, J&J Video Reacts, Harmonic Earth Healers, Tessa, Michelle, Carl, thank you. I appreciate all your comments and excellent questions. I've learned so much myself because I'm definitely trying to get into a little bit of exercise and working out this year. It's definitely a goal. And I appreciate it. Anything else you want to say? Or I know we have to get out of here. So I thank you for your time and for coming to join us on the holiday. Thank you again for your service and for sharing that beautiful story of revelation that you had about animals and also helping people with nutrition.
No doubt. No doubt. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Korin. Everyone have a great afternoon. Thank you for joining. We'll see you at the next one at 2:30. Thank you.